FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
And I don't know what the extent of this is, but I think the fact that he's a Mormon leads him to be mistrustful of the outside world and what it can handle about him. I think that there is, we're just beginning to see now this nonsense about baptizing people after they've died. And this guy has apparently said that he has done those sorts of baptisms, but not lately. I think that there's something very close to the core of his being, on a very personal level, and this is just speculation on my part, that leads him to mistrust the rest of the world.
I mean, I just two things to that point. First, on the sort of, he has this incredibly impressive grasp of the details of policy. There's this amazing press conference in the year that there was a collapse in the Big Dig, and the next morning he's at the press conference with a bolt, and he's holding up the bolt, and he's got a big chart, and he's explaining how the threading on the bolt was, really this kind of deep knowledge of and that's sort of him and his element. I mean, and I do think the Mormon thing is clearly part of how he's afraid that people will outrageously mischaracterize his religion or attack him for his religion. I mean, I don't know, these, like many religions have rituals that, particularly if you read out of their liturgy or something to people who aren't involved in it, sound crazy, like basically every religion. And I do think the posthumous baptisms, which they're not, from the Mormon perspective on this, you're not actually converting the people posthumously, you're offering them the opportunity to convert in the afterlife if they so choose. And I don't really understand why, if you don't believe in this, it should bother you. But I realize it does bother certain people, but I mean...
Well, there's also the underwear,
Right, but so,
there are other religions have underwear too.
This is making fun of people's tzitzit or their yarmulkes. I don't get it.
Well, the fact is that because it's so recent, and especially because this is the Republican Party, home of a lot of evangelicals who believe that this is a satanic cult.
But they're voting for him. Why should we worry about it?
But he's worried about it.
That I agree with.
And I think he was worried about it front end. And I think that there is a culture, because of all of the oppression that Mormons have suffered over the last 100 years, 150 years in this country, there is a culture within the church of withholding information. And
the real sense, actually, I think it's a lot like,
I think he's imbued with that.
Yeah, I think we have one of my reporter covering him is Mormon and writes about it a lot, and in one of the stories, if you go into sort of a Mormon temple, it sounds exactly like a synagogue to me, at least, in terms of just like the assumption that both there's this historical persecution and there's a parallel for every element of it in this year's campaign. So I do think there's something that prevents him from talking about things that are really important to him.